Hi again, everybody. Welcome into episode number 2 of When the Game Ends. My name is Ben Holden. Mike Carmen, upper left, is my co-host on this podcast. And we are thrilled today to be joined by one of Mike's former teammates, former pro hockey enforcer, agitator, player. He did it all. Pierre-Luc Leblond is joining us from Albany, New York. Pierre, thanks for joining us. And I'm going to start with the last time you and Carmi saw each other. Let's start there.
Wow. I got to speak to that. Mike, Wilkes-Barre,
Definitely
right?
Wilkes-Barre. Definitely Wilkes-Barre.
And
If I
man,
recall, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go ahead.
We had a bunch of amazing people on that team. Just to name a few, Tom Kostopoulos, we had Matt Murray, Rusty, Dumoulin. We had who else, man? We had so many guys that ended up playing in the
Oh,
NHL. And we're the
Tom's.
reason they made it, right? We're the reason where they ended up winning those Stanley Cups. That veteran presence in the locker room. It was a
Yeah,
fun year, man. It was 2 fun years.
you hit the nail on the head. I mean, you got a second year there. I just had the one. And you and I spent a lot of time together. We played on a line quite a bit together. It was good to have you looking out for me out there. And you're not
It was
and
you, me, Zach Still, Farnan. Oh my gosh, man. We had a good group.
yeah, I
Brings
was
me
easily
back.
the biggest wimp on that with that group of guys.
Yeah.
Well, I have you for 486 games in the American League, 1,820 penalty minutes, 62 in the ECHL with 236 in the PIM department, 41 in the show with 101 PIMs. Let's kind of start and dive into kind of where it all started for you and take us back to, when you're a little tight growing up in Quebec and what do you recall from the younger years of your career?
Are you sure those are penalty minutes, not points? I'm pretty sure you got
I
that wrong.
think they're PIMs.
I was invited to training camp in Baie-Comeau juniors. It all started from me boxing. I was introduced as a hockey player. It was one of those gala back home where they had semi-pro hockey players. The tough guys would fight each other, and then they would throw a couple like boxers in between just to make it entertaining. So they still introduced me as the hockey player, and I was 18 at the time. And one of the scouts from Baie-Comeau was in the stands, and he brought me in. He's like, "Hey, if you do good today, you can come to camp, right?" So I'm 18 years old, my first fight, second fight ever. So that was kind of nerve wracking. And anyway, long story short, ended up going to Baie-Comeau. I made the team um, out of nowhere because I had never been in a hockey fight. I have never been in a bar fight. Like it's not my personality. I just like to train and be in shape. So I understand my role really fast. I want to say I probably lost my first 10 fights. I got beat up pretty bad to a
Wow.
point when my brother was came to me and was like, Pierre, you'd better figure this out or you got to quit because your parents are not going to put up with that. So I figured it out, and then I was drafted in New Jersey, and yeah, then I was brought up, and then my pro career and all those opportunities that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, but growing up, it was never a dream of mine to be a fighter. Like I in my younger ages, you had Georges Larac and Donald Brashears, right? Two
Yeah.
two French Canadians who were they were the kings, and in their times. Um, so yeah, we would watch their fights and we would hear about them and we would pretend we were them, but it was not something I was like, one day I'm going to be just like those guys. It was never that. I don't want to say I was also aiming to be a Pavel Bure or Paul Carrier. I never had those skills, so I knew that. But I wanted to be somewhere in the middle, and hockey for me was about having fun and hanging out with my friends, and it's kind of what I tried to bring in my pro career. As much as I needed to be the best and become the best and always be on the top of my game. Big part of what I was trying to do on a daily basis was I wanted to have fun. I wanted to be with the boys, and if I had a seat in the locker room, I was happy. So that was my
Yeah, and
spot.
that's something I remember about UPL is you were always, I feel like you never got rattled in the locker room. You were always
Yeah.
just super light. I mean, we sat by each other in the locker room too. And I just remember always having a good time. No matter what was going on, one of us was pissed off if we weren't playing or not playing well. You just always had a good attitude about it and kind of brought me back down to earth. And I always appreciated that about you.
Well, it goes both ways, man. I had my days. I had my days, and I remember in Wilkes, I had, Nasruddin grabbed me one day and was like, Pierre, chill out, man. It's okay. And we all went through it, and it's frustrating. The hockey career is frustrating. It's you're never good enough, right? Especially if you're in the minors. You every day you're reminded that you're not where you want to be, because at that point you're aiming to be the best and in the show, right? So to me, that was a tough part to have to accept that it was a good enough place where I was in the minors, right? Like to the point where it got to be my NHL because I was there for about 10 years total. So that happened probably when I was 28, 29 years old. So I wish I appreciated more when I was younger. But it is what it is.
It's funny because I had that in my notes to bring up to you. Ben had sent over a video, and I wasn't aware of this. So, congrats, by the way, getting inducted to the New York State Hockey Hall of Fame. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
But you mentioned that exact thing you just said in there, and I wanted to make sure I brought that up because I didn't play as many games as you did in the AHL. I think I 270 something is where I finished at, but it's something that you don't appreciate. Like we're sitting there
Yeah.
again. There's things that you have to accept and deal with, and it's not all glamorous to be a professional hockey player. But at the end of the day, you are a professional hockey player. You're playing in an incredible league. That's probably, I mean, AHL is top five in the world, right? That's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, we don't think of it that way at the time. We're still trying to get to the next level, or I guess by the time I met you, get back to that next level, right? To go to the NHL and just accepting where you're at is so important.
Agreed. Yeah. Didn't know you got a hold of that video though. That's a lot of work from you, Ben.
No,
I didn't know you could
you're a
public
Hall of
speak that
Famer,
well.
man, and I watched that, and I want to bring something else up to kind of where the same vein you guys are talking. I remember when Andy Murray came to Western Michigan back in 2011, and it's along the lines of what you just mentioned, Pierre. And I said, so what's it like being in college hockey? You're not at the top level, and it's exactly what you just said. He goes, Ben, he goes, this is the top where I'm at right now. This is all I care about, and I fell really in an incredible friendship with Andy because we connected and we related, and I have a ton of respect for him. But back to the video, and I want you to speak to this. You said in that video, it's not where you end up, it's about your journey. So what in that journey, when you reflect now, you've been retired for a few years, what are you most proud of in that time and all the years you played pro hockey?
It's hard to answer that question with what I'm the most proud of. If you spin that question and you ask me what would I do differently, it's a much easier answer.
Okay, how
Now
about
that
that?
I'm back, no, I'll get it done. I'll answer
Okay.
your question. I think what I'm the most proud of, I guess, is that I never, I don't want to say took it for granted, but I always found a way to challenge myself to get better. And to me, it was the easiest thing in hockey to do because I knew what the end game was, right? I knew that if I was in the gym working out, I knew that if I was doing my power skating, I knew that if I was working on skills, I knew that was my only way to get better, right? And I know you want to kind of go back towards the afterlife or after hockey life. Like when you're in real life, it's hard to know how to get better and what your ceiling is, right? In hockey, my ceiling was in the NHL. If I
Yep.
could find a way to get to the NHL and be there and be playing my 80 games in the NHL, I knew that was the ceiling. I would have achieved it, right? Would that make me happy? I don't know. But the reality is in the after hockey life or at post hockey life, it's hard to find that ceiling and to put a goal in front of yourself and to just, okay, this is where I'm going and I have the resources and how do I get there? In hockey, I always had everybody telling me what to do, right? And I take pride in the fact that when a coach told me, Pierre, you got to do this, and my strength coach was, Pierre, you got to do this. Like I was always going 110%. So that was always that's the one thing that I can say I'm proud of. I never cheated a day. I never took a day off. I really didn't. And if I did, it's because I had the boys the boys took me out on a Sunday night, and I needed a rest day on Monday. But other than that, no, I feel like I worked hard my whole career, and I'm proud of that.
Do you notice how he said the boys took him out? It wasn't actually his fault that we went out.
They dragged you out, right? They had to pull you out,
Yeah,
right?
because we of course can drag Pierre anywhere. That's
Yeah.
we can take him wherever we want.
I
Um,
wanted to be part of the boys. I told you, Mike. If the boys
I
said,
know.
Pierre, you gotta come, I was there.
Hey, I was right there with you. I'm guilty as charged as well. But you're right though. When you transition out, hockey was so black and white, right? You knew what
Yeah.
you were supposed to do, and if you didn't do it, you'd find out real quick. And they weren't afraid to tell you. And in some ways that prepares you extremely well for post hockey because I don't think any boss that I would hope not anyways in a professional working environment would ever yell at me the way I've been yelled at by coaches in the past, right? So I think it prepares you for people think they have a tough boss, and we're just like, nah, like he's just being real. Like that's what we need to do, right? But that is a challenge when you get out because there's a lot of times people don't tell you, like you said, exactly how to get better, how to advance your career, what career path you even choose. And that's something I struggled with and we
Yeah.
talked about in the first episode.
Yeah. The so my post career, are we switching to post career, or do you want to keep talking about hockey now?
We can go
We
back
can
and
go,
forth a little bit.
yeah.
You
We
can
can
go
really
back and
jump
That's
into
forth.
longer,
wherever
yeah.
you want to go, wherever you want to go.
So
Yeah.
my post career, the moment I retired, I didn't have the college education, right? I played Quebec junior majors, so
Yep.
I got out of there. I had I don't even know what you would call it, like a science degree. And so I had to find something really fast. I was lucky. My wife now is our anchor. She has a good job for the state, and the pension, the retirement, the healthcare, everything. So I'm lucky I have that. So
Nicole,
that gave
right?
me a chance. Yeah, Nicole.
Yeah. I remember Nicole.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She was
She's
there.
great. I
Nicole
love
was.
Nicole. She was
She was
awesome.
part of the. She was part of the solution. She was one of those that would bring me home. The boys would take me out, and she would bring me home. So, balance. It was balance.
Only one that could get you going anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, she was our. Were you there when she was pregnant? That was fun because
Um,
we had a designated driver every night.
yes, I want to say that happened. Yeah, that happened for sure while we were there. I do remember that.
Yeah. So anyway, post career, I took my real estate license, did the classes, and I was gonna do it for myself just to buy and sell investment properties. And when the way it works in New York, you have to basically hang your license in a brokerage. So I was talking with different brokers, and the Coldwell Banker, the owner met with me. So I met with RJ Long and the management, and they basically looked at me and were like, Pierre, you're gonna do this for a living. You're good with people. You have a story. You're gonna connect with people, and it's gonna work out. I was like, okay, sure. So I gave it a shot, and I had a really good first year. Rookie of the year, Mike. Thank you. Yes, I was
Out of way.
in the company. So I finally got a trophy. But the reality is I had so many mentors, and just like you said, like it was black and white. Like those guys literally made it black or white for me. So they were telling me, Pierre, if you do this and that, you're gonna have success. And that's why I just worked. And those 80, 90-hour weeks, I did it. I had two young children, brand new baby. My daughter was like 5 months old and not even 3 months old. My son was 2.5. So I really didn't miss much by working all the time because they were both tiny. Like they didn't have a life yet, right? So I grinded for the first 2, 3 years. And but again, I had good mentors. I had people telling me what to do. So it was easy, good coaching, right? I'm very coachable, and those people were telling me what to do, and I would just go out there and do it, and it worked. So that was my first career after hockey. But it was a matter of, again, putting my head down, working, not complaining, and just sticking with it. The same way I was in the gym when I was playing hockey, the same way I was on the ice. And I had the same complaints. Sometimes it wasn't working, or I wasn't making enough money, or I didn't have enough connections that day. It was frustrating, but I felt like I dealt with it in a hockey setting, and it would translate to my building my career after.
So what year was that when you started with the insurance or with the real estate?
With real estate, I want to say 2017,
Okay.
2016, 2017. Yeah.
So we're gonna now jump back into hockey briefly because again, I had to do a double take on your your elite prospects to check because you didn't quit playing hockey at that point.
I did. Hockey didn't want to let me go, man. I was what's the first one after I retired? It was Adirondack, right?
I think it was Adirondack.
Uh,
Yes.
Yeah.
yes. 17, 18, one game.
Yes.
Is
Yeah,
that right?
one game. So I was in the middle of showing a house that morning, and the coach of the team called me, and he's like, "Pierre, we need a player. We have injuries and call-ups and this and that." So they brought me in for one game. That was pretty cool because again, like my kids were babies when I retired. So I was like 2 years later, now they might be able to remember. Um, so that was really cool. But
How
then
did
the
you
year
feel?
after,
How did you
oh
feel
man,
hopping back
I
in?
was well, listen, I was still in shape, right? I was still working out, but I was not in game shape by any
Right.
means. And I don't know if you know, but the East Coast Hockey League now is, man, it's so fast. It's so fast, and those kids are so good. Like the level of hockey has been climbing. Like it's not even comparable to when I played. When I played, I don't want to say it was like a men's league, but there was a lot of guys that were half serious, half in, half out. It's not
Mhm.
like that anymore. Those guys are legit. Like I feel like the gap between the American League and the East Coast and the East Coast and the NHL is smaller than it was when I played. I could be wrong because I don't necessarily know what I'm talking about. I'm not a coach or a manager, but when I look at them, I feel like those guys are they're really serious athletes now. Like they're full time, and they probably make a little more money to be able to afford the workouts, but the training. But anyways, so yeah, when I played my game in Adirondack, it was cool. But the year after was the most memorable one. It was with the Quebec team, right?
Oh,
The
yeah.
the
So yeah,
Laval
traditional
the
North.
and I've
tour.
been I've been
No,
I've been wanting to ask you about this because you were the first person I've ever talked to, like that I've known or played with that I've spoken to after they've played in the league. I mean, that league became it's the same league, correct, that the Laval Chiefs, right?
correct,
The documentary
correct.
that came out. So I
Hmm.
remember
Yeah.
seeing that documentary and being like, "Oh my God." Like, and so I'm curious how it's changed since that and what your experience was with it.
So when they called me, I was like, nah, I'm kind of done. I'm kind of not. But the one thing that I never had is I never won a championship, right? So that being my own boss in real estate, I was able to make my schedule around my hockey games. So
Hmm.
I would go up on the Friday, drive up, play Friday and Saturday, and then come back. My brother lives in Montreal or lives north of Montreal, so I would go stay at his house. I would go see my parents in Quebec because there's a team right outside. So it was a nice way to just go home and see my family. I'm 6 hours away, well, 4 hours from Montreal and six from Quebec. So it was not too hard or too taxing. It was tiring because it's good hockey, man. The the bulk of the players in that league were they're all guys who played in Europe, retired from the coast from the American League. There was a couple guys who had a cup of tea in the NHL, but everybody else was fresh out of juniors, so super and like in great shape, or like I said, former pros. So it was very good hockey. Each team had a couple, if not three or four, tough guys. Uh, they were all tougher than me at that point. I'm not gonna lie, man. I was not in fighting shape. Like one of the reason I was good at fighting because I was in better shape than most guys. It was not the case anymore in that league. So I told them right away. I was like, I'm not gonna come and fight. But sure enough, they found a way to get under my skin, and I got a few fights, and nothing that we should probably put on the podcast. But I didn't do too well. But I was there having a good time, man. Played what 20 something games. It was
Yep,
fun.
23, I think we had. Yeah, I
23.
mean
Yep.
Yeah,
the competitive juices take over. I'm not surprised. It
yeah,
would have surprised me a lot more if you'd said that you didn't get in any fights or you kind of let everything go. I'm like, eventually the wires cross, you snap, and it's going to happen.
yeah.
It's funny you talk.
That was the year COVID, man, too, and the way it ended that year was pretty crazy. I don't know if you've found that online, but there was a fan that pulled a gun on me during warm up. So that's how it ended. I was like, you
Oh,
know what? I don't need that. I'm leaving. I'm out, and that was it. Yeah. So I'm surprised. I thought you would have known that story.
Oh,
It's
I
not
do
out
not know
there
that
too much,
story.
but
I
Premiere.
I'd love to hear more. So what happened? I mean, what take us through it.
That's how I leave it. No, that's how I leave it, people. I don't want to,
Okay.
ruffle any feathers. But long story short, middle of warm up just started, and guy just grabbed my attention, the stand, and showed a gun to me. He's like, "I'm gonna," in French, "I'm gonna." Can I swear on this podcast? Well, I'm
Yes, you
gonna
can.
kill you, pretty much.
Wow.
So yeah, that was it. I just started spinning in circle. I was skating around because in my head, if I'm skating, nobody can hit me, right? So
Right.
everybody's watching Pierre, 30-something-year-old Pierre, just skating around laps. Like, what is he doing? Pierre in warm up usually is at the red line stretching, but now Pierre is skating laps. So I ended up sprinting off the ice, and that was it. I just told my coaches, I'm done. I don't want to be part of this. Like, I can't be
Wow.
around that. So that was, and then 2 weeks later, COVID hit. So the season got canceled anyways. So it was a tough one, but at the end of the day, it wasn't meant to be. Like I said, I was not going to win that championship that I was chasing that year because it was not going to happen. But
Wow.
yeah,
Well, you might have had the most definitive end of a career of anybody I
Yeah.
know, getting a gun pointed at you in
No
warm-ups.
kidding.
I'd be
yeah.
out the door
Listen
too.
though, I did get another
Wow.
game after that, Mike. I got another game with the Tree River team in the East Coast,
Yeah.
If I
and
recall, you got
that
three games with
was,
them. You got three
yeah,
games, it
dude.
looks like.
That's right. But my first game back, right? Because I thought this was the end. I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm retiring. This is not the ending I wanted, right? We always hear about that. Like, athletes want to retire on their terms.
Yep.
Most of the time, it's not the case. Well, I retired because I didn't get an offer from the teams that I was hoping to get an offer from when I was done with the American League. And then I got a second chance to go play, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then I didn't retire on my term at that point. But when I got a call from Tree River, it was from Pascal Réon, who I played with in the minors. Great guy, and I thought he was joking. He's like, Pierre, we need a guy. Instead of guys with COVID, got call ups. We need a guy. Can you just come? And I thought I was just going to put a jersey on because in the coast you need to have a certain number of players. So I showed up. I did the morning skate, did the physical. And then as I'm leaving, after the morning skate, I grab one of the other guys and I'm like, all right, I'm done for the day. He's like, no, you don't understand, Pierre. We have 5 guys that have never played pro. So I guess they had like so many call-ups and injuries and guys sick that they grabbed a bunch of kids from college or university back home that have never played pro. So they were like in the depth chart that day. I was like 8, which is unheard of. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm playing. And my first shift, if you can get your hands on that, it was awesome. I jumped on the ice. I go right on the forecheck. I'm on the left side going down, and the defenseman gives a suicide pass to his centerman, and I literally I didn't skate from the blue line to the center dot in the zone, right? And the guy looked up, looks at me, and deer in the head, like I didn't skate. All he had to do was a little shimmy like that, and because I haven't skated in so long, I would have been gone, right? He looked at me, and boom, I took him out, and the defenseman came and jumped me. So my first shift back to pro hockey was one of my most amazing shows. I loved it. And now my kids were older. I had a bunch of friends in town. So that was a great comeback. Now I wanted to be done. Now I wanted to be done, be like, this is how I'm retiring now, right? But I think I ended up playing a couple more that year. So but I had a blast, man. Like I said, the East Coast is such a cool league. The guys were super welcoming. Everybody in that locker room was French Canadian. So it was cool to be around that and to be coached by French guys because I never played for French guys other than a couple assistant coaches. So it was fun.
I want to take you back to a much, I guess, a brighter note in terms of one of the highlights in your career. I just have a couple more things. This is one related to your career, and then we certainly want to talk even more about how you transition and some of the things you had to go through. October 22nd, 2008. You remember that date? Does that mean anything to you?
Is that my first game?
Bobby Holik was hurt. They called you up. You guys beat Dallas 5-0. You got an assist on a goal by David Clarkson.
That's my yep, what's that? That's a box score. Yeah.
That's awesome. What do you, I mean, look at your face. I mean, you made it after all those years. What were you feeling in that moment? What do you recall from it today, Pierre?
Well, I honestly, it's a blur, right? Everything happens fast. I remember what I remember is most my family being there and my friends who came down. I probably had 20 people that came down to New Jersey for that game. It was the very last minute. Um, but when I think of the hockey memories, like I remember making that play on the board for Clarkson, who took it and just scored. And everybody tells me that it was a lucky. It was a no look pass, so everybody thinks I was throwing the puck away, but I totally saw him. It's one of those plays where I was like, all right, you take it. I don't want the puck. And then he ended up scoring. So that was a great story. But what I like the most is looking at that list of guys that I played with. And I didn't have that much time in the NHL, but looking at the names on that list, and when I see them again, when I get a chance to just go to a golf tournament, those guys are there. Um, that's what I'm like. That's what really touched me. That's what puts a smile on my face. Like to be able to just kind of relive those emotions by seeing those guys. That to me is worth every blood drop and every sweat that all the pain and all the traveling. Just to have those memories, it's special.
And I swear I didn't know that's what was behind you. That's awesome that you.
Yeah,
That's incredible. One more for me in terms of your career. So I wrote some notes down. Some of the guys that I mean, I'm sure we'll dive into this, but Bob Probert, Joe Kocur, Ty Domi, Donald Brashear. You mentioned The Rock, George The Rock, maybe even throwing a guy like Wendell Clark. Some of the top guys in my mind that played the role you played. But some of the guys you fought, Jody Shelley, Sean Thornton, Brian McGrattan, Aaron Asham, and there's a laundry list of guys. But is Cam Jansen the guy that you had the most memorable fights with? I mean, is that the right way to phrase that? Is he the guy that was like your nemesis when you were in your role in pro?
Oh, dude, no, absolutely not. Jenny was drafted a year or two before me in New Jersey. So when I was in juniors, I would watch him fight, right? And then when I was in the American League or in the Coast, I would watch him fight in the A. And when I was in the A, I would watch him fight in New Jersey. I really studied his style because he's a smaller guy. I'm not the biggest guy either, right? So I watched him fight, and he was amazing at what he did. So I would just copy or take some of his style and make it mine. No, so I felt like I needed to give him a fight when he came to Jersey, when he came back, because he was a fan favorite there. There was no way I could hide from him that night. he was gonna find me no matter what. It would have been a parking lot fight if anything, but no, to have the chance to fight that guy, it was the most nerve-wracking part was I didn't want to go down and hear the crowd cheer for him. That was the nerve-wracking part. So whether I won or lost the fight didn't matter, as I knew everybody would be ecstatic to see Janny fight again in New Jersey. I was just making a name for myself, so I didn't think I could win that fight. No matter what, the fans were going to cheer for Janny, right? So I just wanted to put on a good show, and I knew that that's what he did. He was there to put on a show every single night. He was not, maybe he was trying to kill me, but didn't feel like that at the moment. I was just like, okay, we're going to put on a show and it's going to go for a little bit. I didn't expect to go for over 2.5 minutes. But that was a long fight, man. That kid, Janny could fight long.
It's funny you mentioned that, PL, and I remember you having some long fights. I remember you and Recklich going at it for some long bouts. We'd play Hershey 17 times a season. But I don't remember you ever going down in fights. I'm sure you have at some point, but I don't. You could hang on till the very end, and it was just impressive. Some of these fights that were going well over a minute, that you were able to stand up and okay. Eventually, you both just say, "I'm tired. We're done."
Well, again, that was my thing. I felt like I was, and maybe I was not, but mentally, my mindset was I'm in better shape than that guy, and I'm gonna fight smarter, and I'm gonna take it to the limit, and then I'm gonna take over and look good at the end. Whether I knocked him out or won the fight in the last 10 seconds, that was my mindset before every fight. I was like, I'm not winning a fight in the first 10 seconds ever. I'm not strong enough. I'm not big enough. I'm not tall enough. I don't have the reach. So to me, it was about letting the other guy get tired, because so many guys would come in and try to just knock you out the first punch, and then next thing you know is they've been swinging for 20 seconds, and I was just sitting there fresh, right, letting them do the work, and then I would look great because they were gassed and they were just like me. They didn't want to go down. So I would just start throwing. That's if you watch my fights, that's you'll see. I'm throwing, but I'm not throwing to get tired. I'm not throwing to kill the other guy because I know I won't do it. Like I have over 300 fights. I don't have that many knockouts. I was more of a technical fighter, I guess. So yeah,
Was impressive. I want to
yeah,
transition back to kind of the after a little bit. And again, something I know we keep referring back to this speech, but we both just watched it today. You know, you talked about Nicole's importance and, you know, not only the support during your career, which is definitely, you know, the woman behind the man, right? Who can, you know, can keep you balanced, you know, pull you back in as you call it. But how important was she when you decided to be done with hockey and in that transition with life? And if you could talk to that a little bit.
yeah. Oh, I never really thought about it that way, man. But the reality is for me, I she allowed me to find myself, I guess, in a way, by the fact that she had a job, she had the house under control with the two kids, right? Um, and Nicole's a very smart. My wife is a very smart person. Like she understands what it takes to have a strong family and kind of to figure things out. And she also followed me for a few years, so she knew what I was gonna need, which is a challenge, right? So when I told her I was gonna do real estate, she didn't say, "Oh no, you got to go find a job." You know, she was just supporting me and letting me go. And when I would tell her, I need to work, I need to show houses this weekend, I have an appointment Sunday night at 6 p.m. or Friday night at 7, we can't go to dinner. She let me go, which is huge because I from hockey I would go for 5 days in a row, and she would be home with the kids, right? So what's the difference? That's how I always saw it. And now it is different because now she's working full time. So I think that the fact that Nicole would let me figure my things out and gave me time to reinvent myself, right? Or to pivot, if we want, that was huge. Because if I didn't have that, I don't know that I could have been able to do it and just be happy with my life now, you know? So,
I gotta ask you about Shorzy. And I texted you about this when I saw it. How did that happen? Tell us the journey there. And man, I could not have been more surprised when I saw you hop on the screen.
dude, so like just how my hockey career with junior started out of nowhere, right? Like random guy just finding me and just bringing me in. And I feel like my hockey journey after hockey has just been just as crazy. Like I told you, like starting to play semi-pro again and then getting a call to go play. Like it's just out of nowhere. And I'm the kind of guy that never says no, right? But the Shorzy story, it was Thanksgiving morning, and I'm American Thanksgiving, so I'm stuffing the turkey. It's probably 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning. I don't even know. Everybody's sleeping, and I get a text on Messenger from John Erasti, right, one of the gym, and he's like, "Pierre, call me," and he gives me his phone number. I'm like, I don't know John. Like I played against him, I fought him, but I never met him. Like we never had a beer, so why would I call him? I'm thinking it's a spam. You know, it's one of those you got hacked, and but then I start thinking about all those pro fighters or former guys that are going through issues, and I'm like, man, like what if he needs help, right? So sure enough, I wash my hands, I call him. He's like, Pierre, I'm on that show, Shorzy. Have you heard of it? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, we need a French guy. One of the French guy on the team bailed on us. He's ghosting them. So he's like, do you want to come and be on the show? I'm like, well, I'm not an actor. I'm like, I don't know anything. He's like, don't worry about it. Just can you be on a plane Saturday? So my wife wakes up, and as she wakes up, like I knew the show, but I didn't like I was not a student of the show, right? So I put it on TV downstairs, and my wife comes down, and I'm like, Nicole, you won't believe this. I got a call, and this guy on TV, right? He just called me, and he's like, he wants me to be on the show. So what should I do? She's like, well, you gotta go. Right? Like going back to my point where my wife is always supporting of my crazy stuff. Like she's like, you gotta go. You can't say no to that. So I that was Thursday night or Thursday morning. I got the call, and Saturday I was on the plane, and Sunday was the fitting, and I got the whole like the real life experience of being an actor, man. Because they first of all they do it right. Like they have a huge set. They have a great bunch of people. Jared Kessel was just a phenomenal person. Made me feel like I was part of the show, like part of the reunion forever. Like it was just such a cool experience. And then I got there and I started talking with the Nolan brothers and John and everybody who's on the show. It was just like I felt like you're playing pro hockey and you have an actor or a comedian that comes and he's gonna co-play a pro game with you. Like, how would you feel? I mean, you got that outsider who knows nothing about the business, but because he's a former or he's a fun actor or fun comedian, he's gonna get to play in the NHL. Like I was like, that's fucking bullshit. And then here I am. I'm the outsider coming in on their set. I felt so out of place. I felt like I needed somebody to hold my hand, right? So, but it went well. I think I did all right. But it was just it was a cool experience. I'm so happy I did it because I don't think I'll ever get another opportunity to be in front of cameras like that.
It was like I said, it caught me so off guard. Well, not only that, you and I played with Paquette in Hershey
Yeah.
too the year before that. So Danik
Oh,
Paquette
did
was one of
you?
the other guys with you, yeah. So I'm like, oh my God, two more guys I played with it in the show,
Pocket.
and
So
I just
Pocket has experience with that stuff. He was guiding me. I didn't know him at all either, but he's the one who was holding my hand, telling me, "You got to go there. You got to do this, do that, say this,
really,
stand this way."
wow.
Oh yeah. He
So
was my
for
mentor, believe it
so
or not.
so for those that don't know, what year and what episodes were you in?
Season 3, man, I think I'm part of like I don't speak, I don't say anything. I tried to talk, man, but they cut everything off. Maybe because of my accent. I think I'm in episode 1, 3, 4, and 6. I
Okay.
think something like that, or 1, 4, yeah, 1, 3, 4, 6.
So
Yeah.
I got to tell you, man, your former teammate sold you a little short here. I'm kidding, Carmi. You're a Hall of Famer and you're a television star. I mean, I didn't know that, man. That's pretty cool stuff.
Man, the TV stuff, I wouldn't say I'm a star, but I it's the skin's on the wall, man. I did it, and I'm proud of that. I don't know if I'll ever get another chance to do it, but if you guys ever get a call out of nowhere to be part of a show like Shoresy, and just jump all over that because they're a great bunch of guys, and I'm telling you, I have some photos up there with the boys, and that's just like that photo back there, like
Yep.
that Shoresy episode, man. It was something I never thought I would do in my life, so it was cool.
That's
It
awesome.
was so much
Yeah.
fun to watch.
So staying along the lines
Yes.
of the transition here, um, obviously you play a sport, no matter what sport it is, for the amount of years that both you guys played. I mean, your body's taxed, all those things. I'm curious, like in terms of what you did, the way you had to play to keep playing and taking shots, and what's that been like post retirement? Do you feel good? Is your health good? How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I do feel old some days. One of the things that helped me transition also is coaching.
Yeah.
My little guy, when I retired, was 3, so he was just like in learn to play, learn to skate stuff.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I really got involved with it. So I do feel a lot of pain when I coach for a long period of time. Like my bones hurt, my hands hurt. But overall, it's been all right. It's been all right. Mentally, there's days where it's tough. Like right now at this time of the year in September when the boys go back to camp. I've been retired for 7 years and I'm still there. There's 2 ways to look at it. There's days where I'm super hyped up in September, and I know it's because my body for 18 years I did that with juniors. And for 18 years, it was the time of the year where I'm excited and it's fun, and I get to see the boys again, and we go chat and get challenged and compete. Right, like that's somewhere in my bones or in my brain, whatever. It's somewhere in there. So, but there's also the other side of that where every September now I don't get to do that anymore. So it's very hard to balance. So I guess the mood swings are there, maybe more at this time of the year than anything else. But I also tell people, like in real estate, everybody goes sleeping at that time of the year, right? Because they work in the summer and then they slow down. It's all for 7 years. It was my best months. because I was just going and I was motivated and I was happy. I was like, hockey's back. And then, so yeah, the ups and the downs are still there for sure.
I feel you on that one a little bit, PL. I don't know if I feel it as much now at that time of year, but I've had to find other ways to challenge myself and things to go do because I need something to work for. Or I need something to like a date where, hey, I'm preparing for this, just like as if you're ready to go to training camp. So I feel you on that one. It's definitely something that I don't know if it's ever going to go away
No,
fully. I think there's going to be something there, I think, always.
I think so, and I think that's okay, man. Like to feel like you, but that's probably what made us who we are, right? Like the fact that we were looking at a challenge and it was never big enough, right? Like, oh, you want this is my goal, this is where I want to be. Like, let's go bring it. Like we never back down from a challenge. And I'm not saying that the common people don't do that, but I feel like a lot of people that just went to school and fell into a job, like I don't think they can relate to that. It's a special thing that we did. It's like what 5% of the population get to play college sport, right, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think it's something that only a few people can understand. Not saying that we're special or we're different. We're just geared differently than other people.
It's well said. Completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're talking to your coach, and I know we're going to get into that because that is part of your transition, but if you had a guy that was sitting in front of you that maybe had 5, 6, 7 years playing pro, whatever sport it is, let's take hockey, that's your sport. What advice would you give that person at this point, knowing what you know, what you've gone through and where you're at in your life now?
Biggest thing for me, it's one day at a time. My first half of my career, like I said, I wanted to be in the NHL. I thought I should have been there. I had a meeting with Lou Lamoriello one day, and right before he traded me, and he told me straight up, I was like, Pierre, your attitude, and I can't remember the exact words, but he basically said, like, you're a poor me. Like, poor me, I'm not in the NHL. Poor me, I'm not playing enough. Poor me this, poor me that. But the reality is, dude, I was there, just like we said earlier. Like I was in the American League. I was one step away from playing in the NHL. Like I was right there. So instead of seeing the positives, I was focusing on the negatives, and that one didn't register right away. But now looking back, it's one of those conversations that I never forget, and I'll never forget. And I try to tell my kids that, or players that I coach, like enjoy the moment. Okay, it's not that bad right now. You might maybe you didn't score today, but who cares? You get tomorrow. You got 80 games. You're lucky. When hockey's over, you don't get another chance the next day. You don't know when your next chance to close a deal is going to be. So it could be 6 weeks, could be 6 months. So I think that if I could say tell those younger guys that are still playing, like be in the moment and just focus on today. Tomorrow's going to take care of itself. You just focus on today. Be the best version of you today, and tomorrow's going to be okay. So
Yeah, PL, I'm not sure what all ages you coach. I know you have like peewees and obviously working, with your kids and stuff. But as far as, if you're working with the older groups, do you find that it's a challenge to get kids to focus on the things they need to do in order to advance versus everything is so available now, YouTube and Instagram, and they see all these skills guys doing all this ridiculous stuff that we all know is, most of it's worthless, right? But it looks cool. And yeah, great if you can do it and have fun with it. But do you struggle? Do you feel like to teach the kids like, hey, you got to focus on the basics. You can't just be trying to do the Michigan or lacrosse or Sept or whatever we're calling it now.
So I work mainly with the younger group, but I watch our 18U coaches in our program, and I think that it's all about earning their trust, right? And that's what I see our in our program, our 18U coaches, that I feel like the kids trust their coach. And now he's not a big, high-end super skills kind of thing. I shouldn't say that because his summer camp is called super skills. So he's gonna hate me for saying that, but he's more of a work hard and work on those basic skills that will make you a better hockey player and that will help your team, right? So personally, I haven't dealt with kids that were all about stick handling and showing off. But I feel like if you're a good coach and you can earn their trust, because I think that's half the battle right there. If you can earn the trust from your players, they will listen and then they will fall into place and understand the culture you're trying to build. But for the younger guys that are watching too much YouTube, listen to your coaches more. That's what I would say. And if your coach tells you that this is what you need to do to play in the NHL, well, just it is what it is. Listen to them.
So Ben, we need to
Go ahead.
cut that clip, and I'm going to show it to my guys so they listen to this and they have to listen to Coach Carman.
Can do. Happy to help.
I love watching what those kids do, man. Like I said earlier, I think that the East Coast and the NHL is so much closer. So here's a side story. With my role, I reached out to a few, past coaches or GMs that I played for, trying to get back into what is it that they teach for skill development, right? At the NHL and the American League level. Not that I'm going to teach that to my 10-year-old kids, but I'm good at grabbing the skills and breaking it down for the little guys to understand and maybe like build them back up, right? So I was at the Devils practice last 2 weeks ago, and I got to watch them and just spend the day with their skill coach. Man, the fourth line players, even the American League guys that were on the ice because they had a full squad, they had more skills, right? Stick handling and skating skills than our top players when I played in the NHL. It's absolutely crazy to see what they can do. And now I'm not saying that Zach Parise was not a good skater, but like now there's like 15 kids on the team that can skate the way he would skate. Right. To me, it's absolutely crazy, but it's just a testament to like, okay, like the kids now are putting much more time and energy and working on those details. Now they don't have the same grit that Zach Parise had, right? And not a lot of players have that, but just the skill levels that they have now, it's crazy. It's crazy to watch. It's fun. I like the game now, even if there's no fighting. I like it a lot.
Hey, fighting's making a resurgence. It's coming back a little bit.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, I wanted to ask you what you think of the way the game's changed since you've been, gone from the game. You said 7 years you've been retired. What do you see when you watch the game at the highest level now? What stands out for you?
So one of the things that helped me with my transition, and because you always think, oh, I could do it again, I could still do it, because I can't do what they're doing. So there's no doubt in my mind that I don't have a spot. I'm done. I don't have a spot in the NHL roster anymore. But what I like, man, I like the speed of it. I like the players who are like consistently scoring goals and getting points are not necessarily the most skilled, right? Like they are the most skilled, don't get me wrong, but like there's a major difference between Sidney Crosby, McDavid, Kucherov, like those top 10, 20 guys. Yes, they have the skills, but to me, what I think I see the most is their compete level is absolutely ridiculous. It's off the chart. No, Crosby never loses, right? He never loses a battle. If he loses it, he's going to win it back, and he's going to like it just never ends. The fourth and third liners, I think that now they're lacking that, and maybe that's what the difference is between a third and a fourth liner. When we played Garms, the fourth liners were the hardest working guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like now
we had to be. We were competing for a spot every day.
We had to every day. I feel like now, and maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I'm seeing. The first liners are the hardest working guys. I would bet anything that they're the first guys on the ice and the last guy off the ice. Which back in our days, Mike, it was not necessarily the case. If you were the skill guy, they were always the last guy on and the first guy to sprint off the ice, right? I mean, some exceptions, obviously, but that's what I think is that's what amazes me the most. That the top players are so hardworking, and their compete level is crazy.
God, it's funny you bring that up, and I haven't thought about that till you literally just said it. But we would go out an hour early to shoot on the goalies, like with the goalie coaches, and and then we'd stay out after if Naz or somebody was going to do drills with us or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think we wanted to get better and do those things, but I think we also felt compelled that we need to be on the ice every minute it's available to show
Yeah.
that how hard we want to work, how much we care, how, you know, how ready we are at all times. And like
Yeah.
you said earlier, there was 4 of us rotating for 3 spots at one point in the season with Wilkes. So we were constantly, you know, I think we all got along great, and it wasn't like, F you to each other. But at the same time, we know we're competing against the guy next to us for a spot every night.
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy, man. And then you had me, you, Farnan, and Zach Sill, right? Basically.
Yep.
4 great guys. I don't know you pick. How do you pick 3?
Oh, I know, right? No, we had a lot of fun together. That was fun group.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah, I miss those days.
Farm barn.
I talked to him a couple of years ago when I was going to Cape Cod. Missed we couldn't connect, but man, I'd love to see that guy. We should do a reunion at some point.
I am 100% in for that, especially if it's on Cape Cod.
Yeah. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I want to give you an opportunity, Pierre, to in closing, kind of plug what you're doing with the hockey program, the group you're coaching, and give those guys a shout out too.
So yeah, man, the NY Dynamo out of upstate New York, where our home rink is Clifton Park, Capitol Ice Arena. We have 17 teams that we're trying to bring together and build a culture and change the vibe and make sure that the kids have a great experience trying to get better and playing hockey. We have about 300 kids that are playing on in our rink and in our color, and ultimately it's about them. And I'm very lucky to be able to coach those kids because Mike, like we talked a little bit earlier, like I'm at every age group, but I'm especially dealing with the younger ones. And that's what makes me happy right now is to be able to get on the ice and talk to them. And when they come off the ice, and honestly, sometimes I don't even know who the kid is because I've only seen him with his hat, with his helmet on, and then now he doesn't have a helmet. And he's like, "Hey, Coach Pierre." I'm like, "Wait a minute, who's that?" Right? Those moments make me happy. And yeah, I think we're building something that's pretty special here. A lot of changes, but at the end of the day, it's a good fresh feel for the organization, and hopefully we're gonna be one of the top program in the area.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank Carmi for connecting the 3 of us. It's been a pleasure to talk with you, and we appreciate you sharing your story and all the things you go through as a pro athlete. And the game may have ended for both you guys, but you're still both involved with it as coaches. And I think that's awesome. So Pierre, thanks so much for this. And we appreciate you doing this.
Thank you, Ben. Mike, thank you for bringing me in. I absolutely love it. Every time I get a chance to talk about my past life, it puts a big smile on my face. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
You bet.
You're going to be a tough first guest to follow up. So thanks for coming on, Pio. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right, that'll do it for episode 2 of When the Game Ends. For Mike Carmen, for Pierre-Luc Leblond, Ben Holden saying thanks for watching. We'll see you next time with an all-new episode of When the Game Ends.